I suppose it depends how good his opponent's win percentage is.
Absolutely. In his eyes, a win is the only thing that gets him even close in touching distance towards that top 8, and it's really interesting to see the list that he chose. It's very unfamiliar. It's the Mega Mewtwo EX, which we've all seen and we all think we know how to play against it, but in fact it's not playing the Shrine of Memories, it's not using the Psychic Energy at all. It's going to be using metal attackers, and these sorts of Pokemon are going to help out the type coverage against the more popular Psychic weak attackers, which are going to be the Mega Gardevoir EX. So we've seen him earlier in the day, and he's back here in what is potentially a win and in for him.
Absolutely. Now, Jay, we know Jacob has definitely got a winning in. Nicklas might. And this is another game, and I like this like I like the last game, because it means a draw here does nothing for anybody. Nobody's getting in here with a draw, so that just adds so much extra pressure. Now, prizes aren't so bad for either player, nothing particularly terrifying that I can see there. But Jacob's starting us off here, and straight away we've got an Ultra Ball for a Fright Night Yveltal, which could do a lot of work here, of course. 60 to the active, 60 to a bench DX, and Nicklas's deck is, shall we say, EX heavy.
Very much so. It's all about getting those Spirit Links on the board so you're able to use your Mega Evolution without having to end your turn. Jacob, he's had a very good start here. He's got the ideal attacker. The next thing he needs to do is get it into the active position. He's had the Professor Sycamore to help him get there. We do see the double Colorless Energy attachment, and he also has a Max Elixir in hand, as well as an Ultra Ball, so a very strong start from Jacob here.
And he's going first, so there's no pressure on him to attack. Oh, Max Elixir! Oh, this would be big, and he does! Being able to hit all of that energy, you know, the double Colorless and the basic, in order to have that Fright Night, you know, that pitch black spear ready to go before you've even ended your first turn is just brilliant here. Now he's playing an Olympia, he's playing 3 float stones, he's probably going to be able to get the Shaman out of the active, but the beautiful thing here is that even if he doesn't, all he needs next turn is an energy.
Yeah, there's no pressure on him right now. Really, there's not much else he needs to look for in his turn. Like we say, he already has that Ultra Ball, so he can help start finding those EXs for other backup attackers. Typically, Jacob is going to go for the Fright Night in the early game, start setting up both Mewtwo's, which Nicklas has already put into play, so they're always going to be easy prizes to target down for Jacob. That sets up easy damage, so then you can go into the Yveltal EX and finish them off.
Yeah, and I think that's got to be the plan for Jacob here. Now, Nicklas, for his part, he has a slightly more straightforward matchup here. He wants to smash with Psychic Infinity.
Absolutely. That is how his deck functions. It's all about getting really the Mega into play so it can just be doing its usual thing of a lot of damage and trying to out-hit whatever's in front of him.
And let's not forget that Fright Night Yveltal is so named for his ability Fright Night. When he's in the active, tools don't have an effect, which means that if that Yveltal is in the active at the end of Jacob's next turn, and as we've said, we see no reason why it wouldn't be, that means those Spirit Links don't do anything. So Nicklas can't evolve his Mewtwo's this turn, and next turn he can Mega Evolve them, but not without ending his turn, which is not the way he wants to play this game. That puts him behind an entire turn, the entire game, for every evolution.
There are a few things that Nicklas could do during his turn. He does play 2 Escape Ropes in his list. He does also play 2 Hex Maniacs. Even Lysandering the Fright Night back to the bench is an option for him. But at the same time, if you're moving the Yveltal out of the way, you're not dealing with it. And right now, that's Jacob's main attacker.
And, of course, it's all resources.
Yeah.
Using a Lysander means you're not using a draw supporter. Escape Rope sounds like fun. Let's hope Nicklas has an Escape Rope, because if he doesn't, then there's very little he can do. And actually, speaking of very little he can do, all he did that turn, he's got 2 Mewtwo's out, an Energy and a Spirit Link, and he's passed. So I'm thinking if Jacob does get the Yveltal in the active, and I'm thinking it's probably a when rather than an if, I'm not sure Nicklas is going to really have many options. His hand doesn't appear to be amazing. And
that's exactly why right now we're seeing the Ultra Ball getting rid of the N, because Jacob has caught on to the fact that Nicklas's hand isn't that strong. I believe Jacob does have the VS Seeker in hand. He's going to grab himself a Shaman EX for now. He already has a second Ultra Ball, which is going to help him get into potentially another Yveltal EX or some other attackers. and he's going to get some fresh hand here, and he has other things to fall back on for the rest of his turn. Looks like he has a couple more cards that he might want to play down first. He does have potentially another Ultra Ball for the 2 trainer cards remaining in his hand. Then he can put down a Yveltal EX, which we see straight away, and then he's going to get a fresh 6 cards from this Shaman. Very strong stuff still.
Oh, that is nice. And I would quite like to see a delinquent here. Because what you've often find when a player isn't playing many cards, they've often got things like, for instance, a Versus Seeker, or a Mega Revolution, or a Second Energy that they couldn't attach. So sometimes playing a delinquent in a situation like this can be devastating, because your opponent's thinking, well, as long as I hit an N, I've still got some stuff. And you can kind of decimate their hand before they even get there. Although Team Flare Grunt, which he's just drawn, might be another fun option to slow down Nicklas, get rid of the energy that he has already attached.
Yeah, he does have a few options. It looks like the only way to move the Shaman EX right now is going to be the turn attachment. So a small misstep here. He's not been able to find the ideal, which would have been the Float Stone, because then he can start committing energy elsewhere on his board. You can see him considering this move now. He does indeed commit the Dark Energy to the active Shaman EX. One thing Jacob's not gone for at all is even consider his Trubbishes so far in the game. In fact, he's discarded one already. Sometimes it's good later on in the game to try and dig and force the Garbodor into play, because then it can slow down future Shaman EXs when it comes to the late game, but right now it's not a priority. Instead, we're going to see the Professor Sycamore, followed by the retreat of that Shaman EX. Doesn't look like he hit anything else like Max Elixir, so instead we're just going to see the end of his turn with that Pitch Black Spear.
And there's a clock now here on Nicklas. Nicklas, I mean, after 2 more attacks, both those Mewtwo's will be KO'd. So it really is imperative for Nicklas to get something going here. And of course, the only way he really gets something going is to Mega Revolve, which he can't do without ending his turn while the Fright Knight Yveltal is in the active. Now, we know he actually had a Mega Mewtwo in his hand that turn, but he couldn't play it without ending his turn. So he has to just play the N. Now he's going to be looking, I mean, he can't play a Lysander anymore. It would have to be something like an Escape Rope. But even if he hits the Escape Rope, he's then going to need a Spirit Link and a Mega Mewtwo and an energy to attack. That is a lot to ask off an N to 6.
It's definitely a lot to ask for. It looks like he has just a Trainer's Mail to maybe dig him something like an Ultra Ball, and then he can start using Hooper EX. Something like that is going to be his ideal option here. Doesn't look like much. A few of the Pokemon that he would have liked to have gotten, but unfortunately no Ultra Ball in that top 4 cards. So it's going to be a slow turn for Nicklas, and you see, unlike most usual Mewtwo decks, he's actually opting to use the Photon Wave Mewtwo EX. This is sometimes a mitigating factor against things like Fright Knight Yveltal and other early damage that you could be receiving, but he doesn't even have the energy to use that attack at this point in the game.
No, a second energy, dealing 30, reducing damage done by 30, would mean that, you know, it is only doing 30 to that active, which would really, really help. Unfortunately...
That N was pretty brutal for Nicklas. I don't really know what else he can do with this turn. I can't see many options in his hand right now. He's trying to do some number crunching. I think it's worth, whether if it's worth putting down another Pokemon or something like this. But he really is backed into a corner. That N did not help him out too much.
No, he doesn't even have the energy to attack, like we've said. He's not able to get the Yveltal out of the active, and actually, as annoying as this might sound, it would have just been better to just Mega Revolve and play the N. He had no way of knowing this, of course, but as it turns out, as often turns out, with the value of 2020 hindsight, we could look at that and go, should have just Mega Revolved.
Yeah, when you draw a hand like that, you always think back to maybe you shouldn't have made that play, but as you say, it's impossible for him to have known that he could have drawn into a hand that was, at that point in the game, not very helpful. He did look like he had things like the Mega Evolution and the Lysander in hand. He had that option available, but he didn't have energy in it, so he whiffed on all 3 counts after that N. Back to Jacob now. We see that he starts committing energy to his Yveltal EX. As we've already said, this Fright Knight has bought him a lot of time. It means that he's going to be able to set up another 60 damage on the active Mewtwo, and then he has the choice of either putting 60 on the other Mewtwo on the bench or continuing to pressurize the one with already 6 damage counters on it. At the same time, he's starting to get energy onto his Yveltal EX now, attacking on all fronts right here, Jacob is.
And we see the N coming down here. Now, Jacob didn't want to play an N last turn. He's like, I'm not giving you a new hand. But of course, as soon as your opponent plays them, you go, oh, well now they've got a new hand, so I'll play the end. Now we did see that Nicklas didn't do much after the end, but even so, you think your opponent's probably got a supporter of their own. It's no longer quite so imperative to not play the end and not give them much of an advantage, but Nicklas doesn't have much here. Now he finally does have an energy that he can use to use that photon wave attack, but which would save the Mewtwo. But it's not much more than that.
Yeah, it's really awkward for Nicklas here. We do see the Ultra Ball. I'm not sure if he needs to maybe stall for a few turns to try and get some momentum back. All of his attackers currently on an awkward amount of damage. We have already mentioned that he's not playing the Shrine of Memories. You can see Metal Energy is what's on the Mewtwo right now. So the whole healing approach that normal Mewtwo decks have, that option's not available for Nicklas. He's built his deck around a different approach, just trying to hit very hard with the Mega. But this one Fright Night Yveltal has put in such a shift right now that his whole deck isn't functioning right.
No, and you've said about the usual rules. Now, of course, we don't have, I believe, any regular Mega Mewtwo's even in top 32, do we?
No, I'm pretty sure that, first of all, it's not a very popular deck that many people piloted, and secondly, there's just a fear of Gardevoir, the Mega, because it has the part Psychic typing, so it can pretty much run through Mewtwo so quickly. That's why we see Nicklas, he's playing these Metal Energies to try and help out against the Mega Gardevoir matchup, against the Rainbow Road matchup, as well as 3 Parallel City, which he plays in his list as well. So he's trying to cover the full spectrum of matchups, but at the same time, he might be just watering down his overall strategy.
And I just want to give props to Nicklas for that, you know, for taking a deck and going, right, this deck's pretty good, but it's not quite doing as much as we can. I know what I can do. I'm countered by Gardevoir. Well, I'll just counter Gardevoir then. Now, he did play the Shaman. He drew a whole bunch of cards here. Finally got the energy for the Photon Wave like we saw before. But he's not got extra Spirit Links. He's not getting that Mega Revolution. There's no Escape Rope. And even if there was an Escape Rope here, we notice that Jacob has benched another Fright Night Yveltal. No prizes for guessing what Jacob would choose to promote if Nicklas played an Escape Rope.
Absolutely, and we see him really umming and ahhing. There was nothing really else he could do with his turn, so we're just going to see the end get played. I'm really struggling to see how Nicklas can come back into this game. He's very, very far behind. The active Pokemon being heavily damaged. He's yet to even announce an attack all game. I'm trying to think maybe based on the clock, he knows he needs to win this to have any chance, any hope of the top 8. Even if he does get the win, he doesn't guarantee it, but getting himself that win does get him into top 16, which is more championship points. So every prerogative is in his best interest to try and win this game, and really it might be down to the clock. Save yourself some time, start up a new game and see what you can do. As of now, he's continuing with the game. We see the Photon Wave just for the 30 damage, but it does reduce any damage done by the defending Pokemon by 30, so he should be safe out of Pitch Black Spear range, but at the same time, the 60 bench snipe is still a huge factor here.
It really, really is, and let's not forget that that Mega Mewtwo can still be KO'd by something like an Yveltal EX if Jacob were to choose to pay the retreat cost and just pop another energy on the Yveltal EX. The real way back for Nicklas here, and I don't think it's going to work, he needs to heal those Mewtwo's, he needs to Mega Evolve, and he needs to, as we said at the beginning of the game, start smashing with Psychic Infinity. But he can't Mega Evolve because of the ability Fright Night. He's not playing any healing cards other than Olympia, which I'm sorry is not going to... Healing 30 damage while switching doesn't quite do enough here. And honestly, it's not doing enough here. It's just not doing enough. I think, I agree with you here, winning 2 games is going to be a lot. It's not taking much. Now, Nicklas here is just explaining to Jacob about Photon Wave.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen, this is why, as well, a huge reason why the Photon Wave is in the deck. Reducing the damage from 30, not only, it's acting on the defending Pokemon, not the Mewtwo itself. So it's both the active and the bench are being protected a little bit by the damage here. Jacob just having to refresh his memory with this Mewtwo because it's not often the one that's played in the first place. So you can see Nicklas's approach. He's got the Photon Wave, which protects his Mewtwo's from a lot of damage, which is Fright Night's mainly the strategy that Yveltal players will use, because typically the Yveltal EX on its own does not trade very favorably against the Mewtwo on its own, because Psychic Infinity is just so much more inherently powerful. So in the early turns, you try to Photon Wave to protect your EXs before they become Megas, and It hasn't worked out this game. Maybe in the next game it could be the case. At the moment, Nicklas is just trying to scramble for something as he does go for that N as well. But Jacob's still yet to take any prizes, so he's not even being affected too heavily by the N here.
No, he's still getting a full hand of 6, as is Nicklas. But even with Photon Wave, that Mewtwo's down to a rather paltry 20 HP. It's not taking another Pitch Black Spear, even though, you know, it can be reduced using Photon Wave. So I think Jacob's about to take his first 2 prizes. And let's not forget, even if it goes to the bench and a different Mewtwo uses Photon Wave, it will still get KO'd from the residual 30 damage. What Nicklas really needs here is just a way around those Fright Knights. And this is why I think going to Game 2 would be good for Nicklas. If he can go first and if he can evolve 2 Mewtwo's, if he can just Mega Evolve 2 Mewtwo's, he can just Psychic Infinity for the rest of the game. And there is an argument here that Nicklas is, and I'm not saying he should, but I'm saying there is an argument that what Nicklas should be doing in this matchup is just going, you know what, Mega Evolve, end my turn.
Yeah.
Because as soon as he gets those Mega Evolutions, he can start taking prizes. Here, there's no Mega Evolutions. Photon Wave has not been doing enough for him. Had he just Mega Evolved on turn 2 and accepted ending his turn, he could have at least 1 Mega Pokemon out by now, and that Yveltal would be KO'd by just a double Colorless on the Mega Mewtwo.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not dealt with the problem that's in front of him. It's normally something like a 1 or 2 turn window where there's turn 2 for the Mega Dex. Do they get the Mega Evolutions off? Do they hit their Hex Maniac? Do they hit their Escape Rope? Do they hit their Lysander to move the Fright Knight out of the way? Or do they not? And if the answer is no, then as you can see, Jacob can simply run away with this game. This Fright Knight's still yet to be knocked out, and it's just meaning that he can quite comfortably set up his entire board for whatever Nicklas has for the rest of the game. It doesn't look like there's many stall targets on his bench. He does have Float Stones in his hand. He has energy all across his board. It's just looking dominant right now.
And I love the subtle plays from Jacob here, benching the second Fright Knight, keeping the Floatstone in his hand. He knows full well that if Nicklas can get a couple of turns without the Fright Knight Yveltal in the active, Nicklas can swing this matchup right in his favour. And everything about the way Jacob is playing, the way he's keeping cards in his hand, the things he's choosing to bench, even the things to which he's attaching energy, it's all basically saying, I don't care what you do, I'm winning this game, and I'm focusing on my play, not yours, and it's really working for him here.
And yeah, this is why Fright Knight is in the deck. It's in here for so many matchups. Turning off tools is a fundamental. Seeing as though we've lost Startling Megaphone and Zerosic all in the most recent rotation, this is really the main card that we have to sort of disrupt tools in general. Nicklas, his whole deck is focused on the Spirit Link. It's such a fundamental part of playing Mega Decks. We often see a 3 or 4 count so that you don't lose a turn. It's such a big deal in the Pokemon trading card game, especially when the attack from Fright Knight is so frustrating for heavy EX decks. And really, Nicklas hasn't had an answer to it pretty much all game so far. And it looks like we are going to see that Lysander. We've already mentioned Jacob has the Floatstone available to him, so this isn't going to slow him down too much. For Nicklas, at least means that he can get a Mega Evolution going this turn. We did see his Hooper EX found him 2 Mega Mewtwo's. It could even be a turn of attempting to stall, Mega Evolving the first one, and then just ending your turn on the second Mega Evolution.
That would be a nice little turn here. It would mean that Psychic Infinity becomes available, and not just for the first, but for the second. He can't even take a prize here, of course. 0 energy on the Shaman means that Psychic Infinity, 10 plus 30 for each energy attached to both active Pokemon. 2 energy, 70. Now, of course, he didn't choose to Mega Evolve his bench. That could come back to hurt him later on.
Yeah, I felt that that was going to be the line he goes for. I don't think the 70 is impactful enough in terms of damage. It's quite easy to move this Shaman out of the way, and it's kind of awkward to try and continue to Lysander onto a Shaman. Oftentimes we see Lysander for Shaman only when they're able to take the knockout. I personally would have quite liked to have seen the second Mega Evolution there, because then that Fright Knight is no longer a pain, which once again it could be. Jacob could well just choose to retreat back into the Fright Knight Yveltal. It's the one that's most powered up and ready to go, and then again you're knocking out the Shaman potentially, or you're putting both Mewtwo's on 120 damage, which is really awkward.
And Nicklas will get a prize. He will be able to use Psychic Infinity to knock out the Yveltal, but if I'm Jacob, I'm fine with this. Either you get 2 prizes while putting 1 Mewtwo on 120, or you look at their board and you're like, oh, you've got 2 EXs on 120 and 1 with only 50 HP remaining. I am perfectly, and he does choose to KO the Shaman, goes down to 2 prizes remaining, and this, I think, now, if he hadn't taken any prizes, Mewtwo's the obvious target here. He's already taken 2 prizes, so you KO the Shaman, you go down to 2 prizes remaining. As soon as that Mega Mewtwo goes down, Jacob wins the game, and Nicklas knows that. He concedes the game, because, oh look, there's a Fighting Fury belted Yveltal on the bench who is licking his chops waiting to come in. And as weird as this sounds, and I mean no disrespect to Nicklas, I like the concession here.
Yeah.
It had gone beyond unfavourable. It had moved past, I don't think I'm going to win, and it had moved squarely into, it is certain that my opponent wins in 2 or 3 turns' time. Don't give them those 2 or 3 turns to run down the clock.
Absolutely. It's always in the winning player's perspective, and it's their reason to carry on playing the game as long as possible. If they feel that they're in the favoured spot, make the game go as long as possible, because then going into the second and third games, there's less time for the opponent to make the comeback. So Jay took a very, very convincing first game. It's over to Nicklas now to see how he can try and get around this. There's only 2 Fright Night Yveltals in Jay's list, so it's not super likely that he's going to be able to get it on the first turn. Definitely not to start with it, so there are a few factors here in play. It just so happened that he got such a great start in the first game. And let's not take anything away from Nicklas. His opening hand, he was draw passing for a few turns, on top of the fact that there was a really annoying Yveltal in the active position.
And that's always a very upsetting thing to happen when you're in your winning in game. Both these players know. Now, there's no guarantee here, and like we said, we can't guarantee if matches will end in draws, etc. So everything we've got is based on predictions, fairly good ones. We know that Jacob is in with a win. Nicklas will be on the bubble. He might just make it as one of the lower seeds, or he might just miss out as one of the highest rated top 16 players. But as it stands at the moment, he needs to try and get this win, and to sit there and just see your opening hand and not be able to do anything for a couple of turns on the most vital of games, it's upsetting.
Absolutely. And I'm just getting to see the prize cam from Jason there. Jacob, I should say. Only 2 floatstone in the prizes. That potentially could be an issue, but beyond that, nothing too painful. And it's going to be over to Nicklas here to see what he gets for his starting turn. He's going to be the one going first here. He has the option as the losing player of the first game. Looks like he does get a mulligan, so Jacob is going to put that dice, as you can see, on top of his deck, so that he's going to be able to draw an extra card. That's what happens when you're not able to start with the opening 7 cards of your hand with any Pokemon. It means that you have to shuffle back in, try again, and your opponent gets the small advantage of an extra card.
Kind of like a bit of an apology.
Yeah.
Sorry I'm making you wait by having to shuffle up again. Would you like an extra card? Of course, Nicklas is going first here. Getting extra cards when you're going first is awesome. Getting extra cards when you're going second means a whole turn of sitting there crossing your fingers, hoping your opponent doesn't play an N, and completely mitigating. There are actually 2 mulligans there from Nicklas, so nice hand from Jay, we would assume. He's actually, on his deck list, he has written his name as Jay, so that's why I'm occasionally calling him Jay. He's given us both names.
Yes, he definitely has.
Which I think means we get the option of calling him Jay or Jacob, as we like.
Yeah, commonly known as Jay is Jacob. Looking at Nicklas's prizes again, nothing too awkward. He has led with Magina, and the other one is currently in his prizes. He does have 2 Professor Sycamores in there, and Nicklas, he's not started great. He's put the Parallel City down into play, but from there he's had to end immediately.
And that's not always ideal. End's good. First turn, play an end, you get 6 cards. You completely refresh your hand. But if you can, play an energy, play a, bench a Mewtwo, attach an energy, attach a Spirit Link, oh, I've only got a couple cards in hand, now I'll play an end. That's a pretty good turn 1. But not playing the end straight away. It just means I've got a rubbish hand, but at least I get a new one.
Absolutely, and again, it's one of those things where Ultra Ball is the crutch of a Mega EX deck, because Hooper EX allows you to get not just 1, but you can actually get 3 Pokemon effectively, as long as you're happy to take that extra bit of a downside of having the Hooper on your bench. It's an easy prize target, it's a Lysander target, but at the end of the day, it's what gets you set up here, and that Trainer's Mail was huge because it got exactly what we've just mentioned, the Hooper EX for the Scoundrel Ring.
And I'm assuming here it's going to be something like 2 Mewtwo's and a Shaman. That would be the usual kind of target here. A couple of Mewtwo's to evolve up, Shaman to draw some more cards. Now it might be going triple Mewtwo here, and this depends on what hand he's got. If he's got a hand where he's comfortable of drawing enough cards this turn and the next, then we don't need Shaman. Let's get Mewtwo, 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 especially relevant where Yveltal is going to be hitting the bench for 60. You can go, oh, you've got 60 damage on. Well, I'm going to evolve one of your friends on the bench. But if you don't have anything else to draw, you're almost kind of forced into going for the Shaman here. And of course, he already had a Shaman in hand. And a Spirit Link, I mean, 3 Spirit Links here would be amazing.
Ooh,
he's got Hex Maniac.
He has got Hex Maniac as well. It's interesting to see that he's commit both of these Spirit Links, because now it also kind of gives Jacob the opportunity to pick which one he wants to target in the following turns. Obviously, Jacob, with the Fright Knight in the current active position, isn't going to be able to get the Pitch Black Spear with this one this turn because it needs 3 energy total to attack. It looks like he's happy enough to commit the Darkness energy to his active. He does have the Enhanced Hammer, which is going to be pretty painful for Nicklas, definitely, but it looks like he does have Ultra Ball as well in his hand, so I think he's got a few more turns to do stuff here. He's actually opting to pass here, which is very interesting.
Could it be? Did he have any extra Pokemon? I didn't get to see a good look at his hand there.
I was pretty certain that there was an Ultra Ball in the top of his hand that he was mulling over. I think he's just sort of gambling that he is able to survive getting knocked out this turn. It would require something like Escape Rope. Let's think about the numbers with Nicklas's Mega Mewtwo's attack. It's 10 base plus 30 more for each energy attached to both Pokemon. So the double colorless gets him the 1-hit KO. Bear in mind as well, you have to get around the Fright Knight ability. So Nicklas has to have a very specific hand. He has to have the Mega Evolution, the double colorless energy, the Hex Maniac, and the Escape Rope all in his hand. So Jacob's just gambling, saying, I don't think you have all of those at once.
Well, the Escape Rope wouldn't do anything. Oh, so it would. Sorry,
you need
so
to move the Machinery.
Yes, I do apologise. He would also need a Mega Turbo here, because we need 4 energy total, because free energy only does 100.
Sorry, yeah.
So it's still possible, but Jacob's sitting there thinking, you know what? Escape Rope, DCE, Mega Turbo. He did actually discard a Metal on turn 1, so another Mega Turbo's in play. Hex Maniac, Mega Mewtwo.
There we go.
And it's too much.
I think, yeah, Jacob felt pretty safe there because really it was about having too painful of a discard from this Ultra Ball. Now he has a clean discard, and you can see he wants to keep hold of, well, he's going to discard that Garbodor, and he has the debate. I think it's either an Energy or potentially an Enhanced Hammer as well. That's the debate right now. And he is going to get rid of a Darkness energy, and he's going to be able to search his deck, most likely for a Shaman EX here to try and set up.
I like keeping the Enhanced Hammer, because let's face it, Psychic Infinity uses a double colourless. Now, of course, he can just go Basic Energy Mega Turbo, but that is a much more awkward combination than just, hey, here's a double colourless energy. And obviously what Nicklas really wants to do is build up energy on a Mewtwo and just sweep Jacob's board. And that is very difficult to do when every time you attach a double colourless, your opponent goes, I got an Enhanced Hammer.
Yeah, I'm going to set you back basically 60 damage, and it's a big statement. Jacob making sure that he has enough of those throughout the game to make sure that he has enough output on his end to keep up with the Mewtwo. He's making sure that Nicklas actually discarded that Hex Maniac and that he's not had a head slap moment, and that was what finished his turn. And yeah, he is indeed going to be able to set up to get himself 6 cards. No Max Elixirs or anything else like that. Not even a Trubbish if he even wants to put one down. And he's debating where to put this damage. I believe more often than not it's going to be on the Mega, because that's what Nicklas is. That's really the threat on Nicklas's side of the board.
I would assume it would be on the Mega. However, we saw in the previous game, he 2-hit KO a Shaman using Pitch Black Spear. He might think, you know what, I'm confident enough KOing the Mega Mewtwo's, you know, using things like Yveltal, or maybe even, I don't even view you as a threat that much. You've got to get the Magearna out the active, and it might be that he can KO the Magearna and the Shaman. Well, not anymore, because there's the Escape Rope. And here is the reason why Jacob benched a second Fright Knight last game. Now Fright Knight's no longer in the active. Now Nicklas can evolve a second. Oh, and there's a Spirit Link. Can he evolve a third Mega Mewtwo this turn?
This is definitely pretty big here. Getting 2 Megas out with no damage on is exactly what Nicklas wants here. That's why I was kind of assuming that there was going to be 60 coming onto the Mega Mewtwo. Jacob's pretty much saying that I'm going to have Fright Knight around for a while. Nicklas finishes off his turn with the Psychic Infinity, again just putting 70 onto the Shaman EX. Jacob responds with his second Enhanced Hammer. He plays a total of 2, which is pretty standard for the Yveltal list, at least the ones that we've seen this weekend. And now we're going to see Jacob start trying to attach energy. He's debating putting the double colorless onto the Yveltal EX, and he's going to follow up with an N here. There was potential maybe to attach the double colorless to the Shaman and then follow up with a Sky Return, pretty much mitigating the damage and at the same time moving the Shaman EX out of the way. But then what does he Sky Return into? So he's going to just hedge his bets here. He doesn't really mind the Shaman EX getting knocked out too much. Obviously it's ideal if he's going to find a Float Stone and maybe a non-EX, but really it's not too big of a deal in the long run. It's about how much energy and how many threatening attackers he can get on the board here.
And that's an excellent point. Now, the Shaman here, I don't think it's doing enough damage. And you said about what they put active. Well, a double colorless Psychic Infinity will one-hit KO a Fright Night Yveltal.
Yeah.
And he does not want to lose that.
No.
Now, it wouldn't KO the Yveltal EX, but it would do 130. That is a big chunk of damage. And a double Mega Turbo, which is a lot to ask, admittedly, would get a one-hit KO on that Yveltal EX. It would really, really hurt Jacob's setup. So, Nicklas here, I like what he's doing. And Jacob's actually just giving up that Shaman. He is allowing the KO. Oh, and he's... Oh, that's a trainer's mail. That's upsetting because he has a double colorless. It was the next card.
I'm pretty sure he's got energy. He's got double colorless in his hand as well. So
he just can't get rid of them.
Yeah, he's got plenty, and he doesn't even have to worry about the enhanced hammers anymore. Jacob does play Team Flare Grunt, which is again something that he does have to worry about, I guess. But this is the thing. Jacob's going to try and make it awkward for Nicklas to take meaningful prizes. He doesn't mind him continually committing energy if it's going to be awkward for Nicklas. It's going to mean that there's still Yveltals ready to go in the back so that the Mewtwo can start getting fought by his own attackers.
This is kind of the age-old, I suppose, choice between board position and prizes. Jacob is happy saying, right, you can have my Shaman, I will happily give up these 2 prizes. Because look at my board position. I've got my Fright Night Yveltal, which I'm going to use to spread a whole bunch of damage around. And we know the next time it comes up, he's going a Shaman, which will even up the game anyway. And then he's got the Yveltal EX, which you've already said a couple of times, Joe, is so good at just coming up and sweeping and KOing all of these things that have got some damage on. Of course, had he used the Shaman and put the Fright Night active, that Mega Revolution would not have happened without ending the turn. And this is what Nicklas wanted last game. He has a Mega Evolved 3 Mega Mewtwo's. He does not need any others. Now here comes a Mega Turbo.
There's 2 Mega Turbos, in fact. He should have played both at once. That's pretty big.
Okay, so you know when I said if he put the Yveltal EX, he actually would have been KO'd by a double Mega Turbo, double colorless energy. He could have actually KO'd the Yveltal EX.
Well, the double colorless would have been the Sky Return, so it wouldn't have got the KO on the Yveltal EX, but it would have been a huge chunk of damage.
Because he wouldn't have put it on the Yveltal as well.
Yes, exactly. But the double Mega Turbo, let's not take away from the fact that this is huge. It means he can commit either his energy to the Mega in the active. That means it sort of baits out the Yveltal EX to start trying to attempt Evil Ball. Instead, what he's going to do, and I really like this, he's just going to hold the double colorless. Again, it's one of these things where he's got enough currently to already combat the Fright Night if that's going to come into the active position, and if Jacob wants to go with the Yveltal EX, he can simply just attach that double colorless energy and then wipe it out the game. And
we saw 2 turns in a row, Jacob went, oh, you've got DCE, have an Enhanced Hammer. And that makes you a little bit nervous. Does he have a Team Flare Grunt? Maybe there's a Lysander, or maybe there's, Lysander Team Flare Grunt. No, he can't do that. That's 2 sports in 1 turn. But he doesn't want to have these, he might not know how many Enhanced Hammers are actually being played here. Or he might just think, I want this energy next turn. I want to have the option. Like you said, he's got enough for now. Next turn, something might happen which changes his mind about where he wants the energy, and now he's got the option. He's 2 prizes up, he's KO'd a Shaman, and he couldn't really have put it on the Mega Mewtwo, because not only does the Mega Mewtwo do more damage for every energy attached to both active, so does the Yveltal EX. So he could only have put it on the bench, and he didn't need it on the bench. Maybe Fright Night comes up here, hits 60 to the active, 60 to the bench. Well, now Nicklas can put the double colorless on whichever Mega Mewtwo didn't take the bench damage, whereas if he had attached it, Jacob would have gone, oh, That's where I'm putting the bench damage.
Exactly. That's exactly why Nicklas is being very intelligent here with his holding of the double colorless energy, almost faking the fact that he does have a strong hand. It meant that Jacob went for the Professor Sycamore there and didn't even consider any other supporter. He has gone ahead and got himself a Max Elixir, which gets onto another Yveltal EX, so both players' sides of the board are starting to get ready to go. It feels like there's been a few cat and mouse turns where they've been setting up KOs. Jacob here, he's going to go for another pitchback spear, trying to put damage on the board. But from here, it looks like both players are going to be pretty much racing now.
They are. They've both KO'd a Shaman, and now it really just comes down to Evil Ball versus Psychic Infinity. But this gives Jacob a slight advantage here, because Nicklas kind of has to deal with that Fright Night Yveltal. And we look at Jacob's side of the board, 2 EXs. He is going to try and force Nicklas into what we refer to as a 7-prize game. We mentioned this in the previous round. You make your opponent's taken 5 prizes, and you've only got EXs on the field. They've got to knock out an EX, and essentially take 7 prizes to win the game. So Nicklas really wants to KO the EX to keep up with the prize trade, but he can't avoid, or he can't ignore the Fright Night Yveltal in the active. And this is just, it's the subtle little plays that Jacob is using to put himself in a position where Nicklas has got to give these resources to kind of take what will be, in terms of the prize race at least, a meaningless KO. Because Jacob is not going to bench a 1-prize Pokemon.
What we are seeing though is Nicklas realizing the fact that it's not that influential to start targeting the Fright Night. He wants to get some initial damage on this Yveltal EX. This sort of means that Jacob is forced into the Evil Ball now, or even the Y-Cyclone if he wants to set up KOs, but it means that his backup Mega Mewtwo EX, we see only 1 energy so far committed to it. We know that Nicklas still has the double colorless energy in his hand. He's sort of biding his time. He's going to set up the 2-hit KO on this one, so then his backup Mega Mewtwo can get even bigger. Once this one, the active one goes down, he then has the backup fully healed, ready to go, and pretty much just get through the rest of the 4 prizes here.
There is an argument here that Jacob could retreat. Because if he can attack twice with the Fright Night Yveltal, he will not only put a whole bunch of damage on the Mega Mewtwo, but he will KO the Magearna on the bench. So if he manually retreats here, he can basically say to Nicklas, look, we're playing a 7-prize game, or don't KO the Fright Night, but you know I'm going to attack with it again, and then I'm KOing your Magearna and taking a cheeky 2 prizes.
This could be huge. I know that Nicklas has been holding on to what has been a brilliant hand, and I'm not sure how large his hand size is. I believe it's only 3 or 4 cards. Delinquent is something that I don't think we saw in the first game. If so, it was something that just casually hit the discard pile, and now this could be the time to strike with Jacob.
We talked about Delinquent early on in the game, but we never actually saw it being used. I would quite like to see, and actually we must see a retreat. Oh, it's his whole hand.
Oh my goodness.
That's all he had.
Wow.
Oh my, that's the double colorless, that's everything. Now we see the retreat, but into the Yveltal EX. Now this is only going to do 100 damage at the moment. It won't be the KO. I would quite like to have seen the Fright Night Yveltal here, but I can see where Jacob's coming from. And of course, if you're going to go to all the effort of discarding your opponent's entire hand, you're not going to just go, hey, take a KO, pick up a prize card. Because actually, looking at the prizes from Nicklas, maybe he takes that Sycamore.
Absolutely, and that is absolutely amazing. That's the textbook scenario when Delinquent simply wins a game.
Yes.
Nicklas was very much in contention. He had double colorless to fall back on. He had VS Seeker. He had Professor Sycamore. Those are all gone now. And he literally just top-decked a Metal Energy. His turn, what he thought was going to be very strong next turn, has now just become very, very weak, and he's in top-deck mode.
He's in top deck mode. Now, the good news for Nicklas is he's got a Mega Mewtwo on the bench. He's got 2 energy on that Mega Mewtwo. I believe he's got 1 double colorless energy remaining in his deck, which he can use to power up his final Mega Mewtwo in 1 turn. And that Magearna is only really going to be KO'd with a Lysander. So, it's awkward, but there is a pot. Now, we know Jacob's going to take a KO here, but Nicklas can take a KO back, get hit, retreat, KO the second EX, and maybe pull out a win there. But oh look, that Fright Night Yveltal is still sitting there, and actually, he can take the KO with Fright Night here.
Yeah.
And I think here, now in the previous turn, I saw why he didn't, because you don't play Delinquent and then feed your opponent a prize.
No.
But here, oh, now he's got to be planning it, because now, double colorless next turn wins the game. He takes the prize on the Mewtwo, puts the Magearna to 120, and next turn, if he draws a double colourless, and spoiler alert, he's going to draw it off his prizes in a second, then he can just use Pitch Black Spear one more time, win the match, book his ticket into top 8.
Even then, he's drawn into 2 max elixir, I think, so he doesn't know for a fact that he will be getting into that double colour synergy, but
we hope he doesn't.
Either way, he's going to have these max elixirs to fall back on, and he's put himself in a really big way to win this game. He looks great in contention. Nicklas needs a few things here. He does play Parallel City to wipe off the Magearna, but that's hardly a great top deck. He probably needs something like Professor Sycamore or N to then draw himself into a way to get rid of this bench Pokemon. Even something like an Olympia could be helpful, but at the same time, he needs to be dealing with these Fright Knights one at a time. We know that the Mewtwo on the bench has enough energy for now, but it all depends on that top deck.
It really does. It's going to be absolutely huge. And what Jacob's doing here is something that the top players do, and it's an absolute beauty to behold, if you're a fan of the Pokemon trading card game, of course. He is basically saying, right, well, I'm going to run my turn in such a way that there's nothing you can do. It's not, I don't even care what you've got in the active. After I attack this turn, I'm going to need to use Pitch Black Spear once in order to win the game. Oh, and I've got a Fright Night Evaltal with 3 energy and a Fright Night Evaltal with 2 energy. Good luck knocking both of them out in one turn.
And Jay does indeed pick out that double colourless energy, just to confirm. So really it's down to see what Nicklas can do. He has to not only deal with the Fright Night. That's not enough.
That
Metal
will be the
energy
game,
is not
I'm afraid.
enough. Nicklas does not know that right now. He needs Jacob to not have an energy. So of course he may not even attach this. He may be in fear of Yveltal EXs, but looking at the board state, I think you simply just attach the active, announce the Psychic Infinity attack and hope. But I'm pretty sure he knows that the end is near here.
Well, essentially here, he's taking one prize, knowing that a single energy of any description will give Jacob the guaranteed victory, and we know that he's just taken a double colourless out of his prizes. Now, hopefully here, Jacob, put it forward. There's a DCE. Congratulations to Jacob. Books his place in the top 8 of the Pokemon Trading Card Game International Championships in London, and that was beautiful. The way he played that game, he set up the game. I mean, Nicklas had some bad luck, but Jacob played that so well, it almost didn't matter what Nicklas did.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's kind of one of the reasons why the Mewtwo deck has fallen out of popularity. We've already said that there is potentially what's considered an auto loss against the Mega Gardevoir EX deck, but additionally, Fright Night is so awkward for any Mega deck to deal with. Even things like Mega Gardevoir, which has resistance to the Dark decks, they still fear Dark decks because the Fright Night is so awkward.
It's one of the best cards in the entire format at the moment. It's got an attack which will win games. It's got an ability which will win games. I've seen entire games won because a player plays a Lysander on something with a Floatstone, Fright Night Evaltal's in the active, Floatstone's turned off, and they just can't get it out the active and they deck out and lose. And I've seen that on more than one occasion. Or even just Lysandering something up, free hit KOing an EX in the active, while you free hit KO one on the bench, and a single Lysander turns into 4 prizes.
Absolutely, it's just one of those things where one turn is such a difference. It's a difference between 2 60 snipes and then 2 120 snipes, and the board is completely different, all on a non-EX. It's such a threatening card for just something that only rewards 1 prize in return. It feels so imbalanced at times when it's that strong, and you can see what it means to him. He's there hugging with Jesper Eriksson, the seniors world champion, and I'm sure there's plenty others there to congratulate him as well, so it's great to see how much it means to him.
There is some joy, and he's in the top 8 now. We had about 500 Masters yesterday, Joe. That's a lot of people, and we're whittling it down to 8, and he knows he's made it into the top 8. He is competing for a guaranteed Worlds invite if he makes it all the way through and wins a tournament. Regardless, he's picked himself up a healthy chunk of championship points, and let's face it, everyone in the Pokemon community's just seen him make top 8 on stream. That alone has got to be a heck of a feeling.
Yeah, it's got to be a great feeling. There's going to be the fans at home. There's going to be people here watching that he can just, be greatly welcomed by his whole friend group and everything like that. So it's so good. It's a good ego boost as well, going into the top 8, knowing that you performed so well. He kept calm under pressure, so you can see that he's an experienced player. We know that he's been in the top tables for a while. Throughout the last few years in American tournaments, he's come over here, not been fazed by the fact that he's in a fresh meta game. he's played a pretty simple deck, but he's just let his own play style and the way he's played it turn out to be the winning difference here.
It was. I mean, congratulations to Jacob. That was wonderful. Speaking of wonderful, we've got an interview with Jacob coming up very, very shortly indeed. So we are actually going to flick to the interview right now, and we are going to hear Jacob, and he's going to tell us essentially how he made it through the top 8.
Hello everyone, welcome back. We have seen an amazing feat here by Jacob Lesage, who has come all the way from Canada. Congratulations on that victory. Oh, we've got some fans in the crowd as well. How are you feeling?
Man, this is like unexplainable. This is like a whole new level of excitement. I can't believe I'm here in London, England, and I got to meet all these great people. My mind's blown.
Wow, amazing, amazing stuff. So I believe you're in the top 8 now, is that correct?
Yeah, we made it.
Awesome, awesome stuff. How are you liking the TCG 17 format?
I mean, I think it's awesome. Personally, my forte is more in expanded, but I mean, after playing Yveltal Garb, it's just so interactive. There's so much more strategy for me, and it really rekindled me into the game.
Okay, so what was your system for putting your deck together, basically? You know, what's special about the way you use your deck?
So the way my deck list was designed, I went for a super aggressive route. I played 4 max elixirs so I could get the first attack off, and I teched a bunch of cards for the mirror. I knew it was going to be big. I knew that other decks were going to be big. I wanted to take a 50-50 against everything, and I just built it to have an answer to every matchup.
So you went for the more versatile approach to give you options in any situation, basically?
Yeah, essentially.
That's awesome stuff. Sounds like a smart tournament strategy there. So how are you feeling for the rest of the tournament? Are you confident? How do you think it's going to play out?
Well, Alex Hill has this like Vespiquen Zebstrika deck, and I'm freaking, but besides that, we're pretty good.
Okay, well, that's great stuff. And last of all, who would you say your MVP is? Who's your favorite, most valuable Pokemon?
Most valuable Pokemon? Definitely the Fright Knight Yveltal. It's taken so many prize cards today. Man, if they don't knock it out, I just sweep their whole field. It's excellent.
Well, congratulations once more, and good luck for the rest of the tournament. Jacob from Canada, everyone. And casters, we are switching back to you.
So yeah, that was Jay there, just showing his appreciation for the Fright Knight Yveltal. It has pretty much secured his way into the top 8, so that was brilliant to see. And don't go anywhere, because we have an absolutely enthralling game up next.
We have got Maze Breckenmeyer. You might remember him from, I don't know, coming second at Worlds, and he's going to be playing against Michael Pramawat, who you might remember from coming second at Worlds. It is going to be a wonderful game, ladies and gentlemen, so do not go anywhere. Maybe far enough to grab a nice cold beverage, but no further than that. We're going to be back very shortly indeed.